Good afternoon. Happy Solar Eclipse Day. Just a public service announcement. It will start to get dark here for a little bit. You'll think you're dying, some of you. Don't worry, the light will come back. On behalf of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the Board of Directors of the Pro Football Hall of Fame Luncheon Club, I call to order the 29th meeting of our 61st year of the Pro Football Hall of Fame Luncheon Club. Our invocation today, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance, will be given by Jamie Walters from Real Hope Church. Jamie?
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate the invitation to be with you. If you'll give me just one grace moment. In addition to getting to serve as pastor of Real Hope Church in Jackson, I also have the true blessing as serving as Stark County's elected county recorder. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you and to pray. TJ asked me for about 10 or 15 minutes of a message. And I told him as a preacher I could do that, but I'm going to spare all of you. So if you would pray with me. Loving and gracious God, thank you for this day. Thank you for all who have gathered, and thank you for all who work to make our community a wonderful place to live, to work, to worship, to raise our families. Thank you for the meal that we have shared and for those who have prepared it for us. In the midst of these tumultuous times, with conflict and acrimony in much of our public discourse and our elections, we give you thanks for sports, which can unite us and bring us together for the greater good. Thank you for the Hall of Fame and for the Luncheon Club who have led and continue to lead so many of these efforts. On this day, when so many will look skyward to observe the phenomenon of the eclipse, may it be a reminder of you, the Creator God, who brings about all things that are good in our lives. We ask for your blessing upon us. We give thanks for our community leaders who give of themselves to improve the lives of those around them. Thank you for our speaker today, Jeff Young. May you bless him as he works in the lives of our young people. Lord God, you have let me know that there is someone here today who is quietly struggling with a significant life challenge. To that person, I say, Lord, give him or her strength, reassure them of your love, and that there are people in this very room who will help. Reach out. Tell us what you need. It is in the midst of this Easter season, when we remember and celebrate your resurrection, that I pray all of this in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have a busy day today, so bear with us. We've got some guests here. I want to welcome all of the guests that are here today, and you'll hear from them here in a minute. Introduction of some of the folks up here at the head table. To my far left, introducing our speaker today, Randy Montgomery. And obviously to my immediate left is our speaker today, Jeff Young. Jim Evans, one of our board of trustees, to my right. We're from Jamie Walters. And also, Wall County is with us today. I want to recognize our sponsors again. You see them up on the screen. We always want to thank them for their contributions. Dr. Peter Ferguson, Chiropractic, the Marion Motley Memorial Fund Scholarship, Wilkshire Golf Course, Aultcare's Primetime Health Plan, and Liberty Ford. Don't forget to plan on joining us May 20th, which is the dinner and our annual golf outing for our club. And we'll be selling tickets here soon, so make sure you got that on your calendar, and let us know about the golf outing as well. So we hope you'll participate in that. Make sure you wear your solar glasses today if you have them. You gotta get them. Make sure you don't look at the sun. We don't want you to come back here next week and not be able to see. So that'll be happening later on today, as I mentioned. The Pro Football Hall of Fame residency program. If you guys are familiar with this, the Hall will be bringing in a Hall of Famer on a near weekly basis, and they'll hang out in the community. That's something that Jim Porter's been wanting to do, I know, for a long time, and they're going to enjoy just being in the community for a few days. Last week, we had one. This week, I believe it's Tim Brown, if I'm not mistaken. He'll be in the community as well. You might see him at a restaurant, gas station, Walmart, wherever, but that's kind of the plan. They're going to make sure they enjoy and are out and about in the community. They're going to, a lot of them will be speaking at different events and things like that as well. So, reminder about the Marion Motley Memorial Fund Scholarship. The deadline is May 1st. Again, the recipient of the scholarship, they don't have to live right here in Canton, but they do have to be a descendant of a club member. Okay, so if you want more information on that, see one of the board trustees. RJ will have more information on that as well. Congratulations to the women's national champions last night, the South Carolina Gamecocks. They finished their season 38-0. If you had a chance to see that game last night, that's an incredible team. I will tell you, they have talent up and down that roster, and they beat Iowa last night in Caitlin Clark's last game, so it was a great ball game. The men's final is tonight. You can stay up past 9:20 when it starts. UConn and Purdue tonight, so good matchup with a couple of big guys underneath. Should be a good one. The Guardians home openers today. Cleveland takes on the White Sox, and 5:10 is the first pitch there. Speaking of the Guardians, I don't know if you heard, Shane Bieber has to have Tommy John surgery. Unbelievable. Only in Cleveland. Before we get to the 50-50 drawing, I do want to bring up someone here as a special guest of the club. I mentioned to you a couple weeks ago that the Stark Public Royal Knights won the state championship in the basketball Special Olympics, and their coach is here, some of the players. I'm going to ask Sean Broom to come up and say a few words and introduce his team. So big round of applause. State champions, Royal Knights.
Just want to make sure. Yeah. Thank you. I'd like to thank RJ Van Allman, Tim Richard, and I believe it's Frank Salona, and the Hall of Fame Luncheon Club for having us out here today. I wish all 14 of our players could be here, but they all have jobs. And beyond winning a state championship, I'm most proud that all of our players are contributing working members of our community. So the ones that are here, I would like to introduce them. The Royal Knights are made up of all players from Stark County schools. Our first player is Robbie Nudo from North Canton Hoover. Nate Manco from Louisville High School. Elijah Jarrett from McKinley. Michael Sunland from Sandy Valley. Max Broom from Glen Oak. Cameron Broom from Glen Oak. And former player turned assistant coach Ian Phillips from Louisville High School. I am without a doubt the luckiest coach in the world because I don't have to hear about nil, transfer, politics, or unrealistic parents. Except the broom woman. She'll tell me her kids don't score enough.
It's been a dream to coach these guys, and it's my privilege to be here today. Thanks again.
Thank you, Sean. And guys, congratulations. Great job, man. Great job. And Michael, I know why you guys won the state championship. You're a Sandy Valley guy, just like me. Good job. All right. I did not know that. All right, we have $141 in the 50-50, so get out your tickets. All right, winning tickets, 622-474.
You've been ready to go. Yeah.
Tim Richard has the money. Who has the ticket? Right here? Over here, Tim. $474. All right. And speaking of Sandy Valley, we've got a Sandy Valley grad next week as our speaker. Jeff Bowles will be here next week. He is the head basketball coach at Ohio University, so looking forward to having Bowlesy here. Introducing our speaker today, Randy Montgomery is a graduate of Salem High School and Youngstown State University. He coached with Bob Huggins at Walsh University. He's retired now, and he coached at Triway for 19 seasons. Tell you what, those teams were unbelievable back in the day, playing in the pit, and I hope you had a chance to maybe see them back in the day. He also coached 12 years at North Canton Hoover, and he finished up his career at West Branch High School. Please welcome Randy Montgomery.
Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to introduce Jeff Young. I've known Jeff for a long time, and he's really what coaching is all about. Jeff began his career as a student athlete at Walsh College in 1986. He became an assistant coach after that, after having a stellar career. He was actually the all-time leading scorer at Walsh, which is quite a feat, until a few years ago when one of his players, Daryl Strotter, broke that record. So he was an accomplished player as well. He became an assistant coach in 1992 through 2004, worked under Steve Loy, who had an untimely death due to kidney disease in 2004. At that point, Jeff was named the head coach at Walsh, and that was a great move. In his first year as coach at Walsh College, Jeff led the Cavaliers to the national championship, which is really unheard of. 2005, they played in Missouri and won the national championship. Jeff was the national coach of the year that year, and also coached second-round pick Robert Whaley in the NBA draft. The team finished 27-7 on the year. The next 6 years would be incredible years for Walsh as they continued through the NAIA years. In 2007, they returned to the national tournament, finishing in the Elite Eight with a 28-6 record. 2008, they were 25-6, won their fourth straight league championship. 2009, they were 27-4. In 2010 was their final year in the NAIA. They finished national runner-up, losing 67-66 to St. Francis in a national championship game. So pretty good start, Coach. In 2011, Walsh closed their association with the NAIA after 74 straight weeks ranked in the top 20 of the national basketball pool for NAIA, which is incredible. Coach Young has been a speaker on many of the Nike national tours. Many of us younger coaches in the audience, Mike and so forth, we went to Nike clinics, which are kind of gone by the wayside now, but they used to be really great. He's coached, been on the national headlines with Billy Donovan, Bobby Knight, Tom Izzo, and Larry Brown. So Jeff was a major speaker on that tour. He's had many opportunities to move on to more lucrative jobs, but has a strong family bond and strong loyalty to his college today and his town, and he's stayed, even though he's had many opportunities. And loyalty is something that's lacking today in our college game and otherwise. This past season, the Cavaliers took 4 new players. It took a little while for them to gel. They actually won the conference and league championships and made it to the Division II national playoffs, finishing 24-6. Jeff's overall coaching record is 473 wins and 150 losses over 20 years. He's had 14 20-win seasons, 2 30-win seasons, 1 national title, and 1 national runner-up. In 16 of the 20 seasons, he's had 20 or more wins. His winning percentage is 75%, and he ranks in the top 10 of all coaches at any level in the NCAA. Some names that you would recognize: at number 5 is John Calipari, number 6 is Roy Williams, number 7 is Scott Davenport, number 8 is Bill Self, number 9 is Jeff Young, and number 10 is Mike Krzyzewski. So that's pretty good company, and I can tell you firsthand, he's one of the greatest coaches in the entire United States. Please welcome Jeff Young.
Thank you, Randy. Growing up, I was always trying to figure out who some of the better coaches in the state were, and Randy certainly ranked up there. And I always believed he was way ahead of his time. He was the first guy that kind of branded his teams. And when you went to a Tri-Way game or a North Canton game, it wasn't just a basketball game, it was an event. And when you do those things, it really gets the community behind it. And you know, Frank mentioned the pit. If you ever been to one of Randy's games down there, it was sold out, packed, little dribblers. And again, it wasn't just a basketball game, it was an event. He did the same thing at North Canton Hoover, and I certainly learned a lot from him, you know, over the years, and I appreciate his friendship. And then one of my favorite teams in the area was already mentioned. I go to some of their games. We bring our guys to some of their games, and if Max would stand up, Max has been my, stand up, Max.
Come on, stand up.
Max has been my manager for the last 12 years, so it's a joy to have Max. So the guys really like him. Max fits in well with our team, and like I said, we go watch them play a couple times, and it's really a good time and fun to watch them play, and they're good too. I mean, when we first went, we were like, wow. I think Max made, what, 3 or 4 threes this year when we saw you play. So they're fun to watch. Anyway, before I get going here, it's a big day, and Frank's already mentioned it. We have the solar eclipse, the Guardians opener, and the championship game. So I'm going to test your knowledge on all 3 real quickly, okay? So starting with the solar eclipse, who knows how long the total eclipse will last today?
3 minutes.
I've got 4 minutes down. I think it's going to depend. Is it 4? Depending on where you're at in the country. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, I'll grab my glasses here. All right, with the Guardians, opening day, how many years in a row have they sold out opening day? Anybody know? 24, someone said? Jacobs Field opened in '94. This is the 31st year that they have sold out. I think that's a record in MLB. So today makes 31 sellouts opening day. And then with the Final Four of the National Championship game tonight, there have been 5 teams that have made it to the Final Four 10 times. There's been 1 team that's made it to the Final Four 20 times. Okay, can anybody name a team that's made it 10 times? It's the Blue Bloods, the ones you would think. Kentucky, UCLA, Duke, Carolina, and Kansas. Kansas, no, the team that made it 20 times is not Kansas. Anybody else know? One of those 5. Not UCLA, not Duke. Nope. North Carolina. 20 times. Yeah, that's insane. Yep. So just some trivia, some facts that you may use later on today. Randy mentioned a couple things about our season this year. It said it didn't start out great. Actually, it did start out really good. Our first game was against Oakland. At the time, that was a huge win for our program. We beat Oakland by 6, I think, at their place. And that's one of those games. Frank asked me if we still play Ohio State. And when Coach Mata left, that kind of relationship went away because we played Ohio State, I think, 9 out of 10 years. Never beat them, but had some close games and were pretty competitive with them. But when you do well in those games, no one will play you. It's a win-win for us. It's a lose-lose pretty much for them at that level. Matter of fact, they paid us to go play them. And at the time, I knew Oakland was going to be pretty good, and I've known Coach Campy for a long time. He's been there 40 years. I know he spoke here earlier this year. Just a great guy, a great coach. He took Oakland from a Division III team to a Division II team, and now they've been a Division I team the last 20 years. And I put a little clinic together just after COVID, and he was one of our speakers, and I mentioned to him, I said, hey, we'd love to play you sometime, and he goes, yeah, I'll think about it, whatever. And a year went by, I didn't hear from him. The next year I sent him a text, he said, oh, yeah, I'll think about it, whatever. And then this year he texted me and said, let's play. That's kind of the guy Coach Campy is. I mean, he didn't forget about us. I think now he's probably regretting it a little bit. So it's, you go through that handshake line after you beat a team like that, and they give you some money to do it, and then you beat them. It's like, you almost want to say, sorry, Coach. But I did tell him, I said, he'll probably get more out of that game than we will, even though it was a huge win for us. But it was kind of maybe an eye-opener for their players. We just got beat by Division II. We better get ourselves going here a little bit, or we're going to have a long season. So I'm assuming their couple practices after our game were a lot different than their practices before that game. But anyway, so that game goes by, and again, it was a pretty big deal for us. But then all of a sudden, the national tournament starts, and they're in it, and they're playing Kentucky. And my phone starts blowing up, text messages, who's this Golke kid? And he's making all these threes, and people don't realize he was a Division II kid. I mean, he played at Hillsdale in our league, and all of a sudden he's playing against Kentucky, and he's making all these threes, and people are going crazy, and they win the game. And then I start getting phone calls from different newspapers in the area, and how'd you guys beat Oakland, and so on and so forth. So that was a pretty neat thing for us to start our season. And then, like Coach said, we hit a little bit of a stumble there. We started our league 1-3, and you lose 3 games early in a 20-game league schedule. You're thinking we could be in a little bit of trouble here. But knowing the guys that I have in my program, I knew they weren't going to give up. They're fighters. They're great kids, high character. We kind of weathered that storm. I think we won 18 of our last 20 games. On the last day of the regular season, we win a game to win our league, or at least tie for our league. And the way it worked out, we hosted our conference tournament and ended up winning that. And then we're on to the national tournament. Unfortunately, I think we were up 13 points with 7 minutes to play and just couldn't hang on, couldn't make a shot. They went on a run, made some threes. You know, we'd probably make one basket in that 7-minute stretch, we'd probably win the game. But just didn't work out for us, and that kind of ended our season. For me, though, I think that game was at, what do you play, like 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon in Indianapolis. Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, I was back in Cleveland coaching my son's 8th grade AAU team. So it all worked out pretty good. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, I've stayed at Walsh. It's a place where I can coach my basketball team, and I feel like I can do a really good job with that. And then I can raise my family, and still I have 4 young kids, and I can do a really good job with them. You go to that next level, somebody's going to get cheated. Either your team or your family, and I've never been interested in cheating either one. So I feel very fortunate to be where I'm at, and you know, I can see myself kind of finishing out my career at Walsh University. Now, with that being said, the landscape of college coaching has changed so much in the last 5 years. You know, you start questioning whether this is something you want to continue to do for whatever it is, 5 or 10 more years. And I'm not sure where this thing goes or how it's going to end up, but it's certainly impacted coaches that are, you know, have been doing it for a long time. I really feel like some of these older coaches that have made a living doing it and been very successful have gotten out because of the portal and NIL money. And you know, hopefully they can kind of get it back under control where it makes a little more sense. But right now, you know, you hear people talking, it's like the Wild Wild West, and that's probably a good term for it at this point in time. And you know, in my first 15 years at Walsh, I never lost a player that was in maybe our 8 or 9 man rotation. We'd lose a kid here or there because they probably just weren't good enough, and they maybe would drop down a level so they could play. And now in the last 5 or 6 years, I'm losing 2 or 3 kids every year to the portal. And you know, you recruit these kids, a lot of them didn't have, you know, other offers on the table, and you develop them and you work with them and you build these relationships. Then all of a sudden, you know, you're planning. I was talking to Coach, you know, who am I looking at in the area? And 3 weeks ago, I wasn't looking at anybody because we didn't have any scholarships. So I was anticipating everybody coming back, knowing that in today's environment that probably wasn't going to be the case. But you know, 3 weeks later, I've got 5 scholarships available. So you know, I thought I was going to spend the spring kind of enjoying myself a little bit, and instead, like this morning, I got a recruit on campus. So you know, it's hard to build a program. That's what I really liked about this level in Walsh, because you can work with these kids and see their progress and see their growth. And you know, you watch them struggle as a freshman and sophomore, whether it's on the basketball court or academically or just getting used to being away from home. And then as a senior, you see this completely different person as a basketball player and as an individual. And we're missing that opportunity to do that, and I think it hurts the game, and I think it certainly hurts programs. I've seen coaches, you know, lose some of their best players. They were going to be really good that year, and they really struggle and they get fired. Whereas those kids would have stuck around and weren't in the portal, you know, they might make it to the tournament and the coach gets a bonus or a raise or, you know, or whatever. So you know, it's a difficult thing. I brought along with me, speaking of the portal, so we pay a service to kind of rank kids in the portal. And right now there's over 2,000 kids that are sitting in that portal. And these are just the Division II kids, and I've got about 10 pages here, and there's about 70 kids on each page. And you know, they kind of rank them. And half of these kids, or probably more than half, aren't going to find a home. So it's not like you jump in the portal and all of a sudden you're going to be recruited by a lot of different people, but like this first page of Division II kids, they're probably going to get Division I scholarships. And then we start getting into the NIL situation, name, image, and likeness. You know, I talked to one kid on this front page, and he's at a Division II and had a great year, but he wants $100,000. Or he's just going to go overseas and play. So the landscape with NIL has really changed a lot of things. And you know, when they came up with NIL, it's not playing out the way they thought it would. Frank mentioned Iowa and Caitlin Clark. Okay, so Caitlin, I mean, she completely changed the landscape of college women's basketball. You know, I didn't know who Caitlin Clark was as a freshman or a sophomore, even though she was first team Big Ten both those years. And to be honest, I didn't watch a lot of women's college basketball, not because I didn't like it, but got a bunch of other things going on, especially with 4 kids. But I started watching last year, not because of the game, but because of Caitlin Clark. She's such an amazing player, and she should be able to go out and brand herself like she has and benefit from that. That makes perfect sense to me. But now with NIL, the money is already established, so these kids are just almost like free agents. And they don't care necessarily about maybe winning a championship or going to a school that has a great academic program. They're just going where whoever's paying them the most money. So therefore, you end up with a situation like, you think of a Caitlin Clark, okay? The women's game has done a great job of branding her. But if you think on the men's side right now, you know, there are no superstars. And, you know, college basketball on the men's side, it's not going anywhere. It's going to survive. They'll figure it out. But at the same time, like the regular season now, nobody knows who's on what team. You know, maybe you can say Zach Edey for Purdue is the face of college basketball. But it's nowhere close to like a Caitlin Clark or even Juju that's come through as a freshman at USC. But like Caitlin stayed for 4 years, so people know who she is. She knows who she plays for. So with all this moving around at the Division I level, you know, you lose a feel for team, and I don't think people are going to watch as much. Now, when it comes tournament time, that's going to change everything. I mean, people are going to get involved just because you got your brackets, you got Cinderella, you got the buzzer beaters that make it so interesting, and I think that's fine. But I am concerned about regular season. Are people going to be engaged? Are they still going to watch the game? And so on and so forth. So I'm not sure what happens down the road, 5 or 10 years, but the NCAA, they do need to get a grasp on some of this before it gets way out of control. And just a couple other comments before questions. A good friend of mine just took a job at a high major, and you know, these kids minimum want $400. You know, the going price right now is $400,000, a house and a car. And the one kid turned it down. He goes, I'm going to go in the portal and see if I can't get maybe a little bit better. Now, if you're a high major, you're going to demand probably $1 million to play college basketball, which 3 or 4 years ago would have been unheard of. And people don't understand that, you know, it's at that level already. And it's kind of trickled down in the Division II as well. Some of these kids are already getting paid. And that's not in the spirit of the game, you know, why I coach. You know, I really don't want to get involved with that too much, but, you know, at some point in time you may have to if you want to remain competitive and stay on top of it. So, I don't know, we'll see what happens. I still, you know, love coaching basketball, especially at Walsh in the Division II level. I've got great kids. I just need to replace a couple. My point guard, Garrison Kiesler, local kid from Green, he gave us 4 great years. We did have a conversation before this season, that, he would probably entertain the portal and see if that could help him maybe down the road when he tries to play overseas and make a living doing it. So I kind of knew that one may be coming, and then he did commit to Chattanooga, which is in Division I down in Tennessee. So we'll miss him like crazy, so I'll spend the next couple weeks trying to find someone to replace him. And that's just kind of, how it is right now in college basketball. So, does anybody have any questions about NIL or the portal?
My question was, any local kids on this radar for this coming year anybody sign?
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, 3 weeks ago I couldn't sign anybody because I didn't have any scholarship money. So I was really focused on the 25 class. Those kids are all juniors going into their senior year, and there's a really good group locally, federally kids. Jackson has a couple. I know Louisville's not in the federal league, but they have a couple good kids that we have an eye on. And in my 20 years of coaching at Walsh, the guys that usually do the best are local guys. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. One, I know they've been coached. Okay, there's some really, really good coaches in the federal league. And, when they come to me, they already kind of know what to expect. There's not that much transition from a high school coach that's pretty good to what we're doing at Walsh. So I prefer local kids. They can be around all summer. I know who they are. They know who we are, so on and so forth. Yes?
How much teeth does the NCAA have to control this?
I don't think they have any control anymore, to be honest with you. I said they might be able to put some regulation. I don't think they can cap it just because the kids have the right to go out and, ask whatever they want for the most part. I don't see how you bring it back in. And maybe there's some ideas out there. I'm not sure how that happens. Heck, it's already trickled down into high school. There's high school kids getting paid. So, yeah.
And how does that work out with the rest of the players when you have $100,000 player there?
Yeah.
How do you build a team?
That's a great question. That's one of the reasons why, I was never in favor of it, just because, that's what's going to happen. You have, maybe one kid making $100,000 that has a horrible year, and somebody else making $5,000 and he has a great year, and it just creates tension within the team. It's going to take away, it almost becomes like an individual thing instead of a team thing. So if I would do it, of course it's going to be on a lot less of a level, but I think it would be like a loyalty type thing. You stay with us for 4 years, then I maybe have something for you at the end. It'd be the same for everybody. That's my thoughts on maybe how to approach it.
Make sure you repeat the question.
Okay. Yes?
How do you work your NIL?
Well, the NIL is the coaches are not supposed to have anything to do with it. There's a collective from an outside group that holds the money, but the kids know, what's in there and what's available and so on and so forth. But it's supposed to take the coaches out of it from a compliance standpoint, but it's basically they ask for a certain amount, they either have it, the coaches have it, or they don't. Matter of fact, Coach Campy at Oakland, we've been talking back and forth. He was going to take a look at Garrison, my point guard, and I asked him about his center that was Player of the Year in the Horizon League. Heck of a player, and he told me, I asked him if he'd be able to keep him. He goes, well, I only have $50,000 for him. He's already getting offered $400,000. So the next day he was in the portal. Can't keep him, can't afford him. It's a shame because they'd have been really good again next year. Yeah.
Do the college presidents have any say-so?
No, they're completely out of the. The college presidents, they really can't do anything about it, for the most part. Yep.
Yeah, could you help us all about what happened with LSU not being able to understand the national anthem to come out and be a part of that?
I'm not touching that one. I have no idea what happened. You know, to be honest with you, I saw that. I'm not sure what happened, but when you go to the national tournament, there's certain protocol. It's different than your regular season. Like we went to Indianapolis, and typically for 30 games, you warm up, time runs off the clock, you do the anthem, they announce the starters, and you go play. Once you get to the national tournament, like they stop the clock with 10 minutes and they do the anthem. It's all TV based. And then, you know, you warm up again and so on and so forth. So it might have just been logistically something, I don't know. I can't answer that from that standpoint. Yes?
Watching the McDonald's All-American game last week, you see all these different kids from all over the country, and you know, you still have the North Carolinas, the Dukes, the Kansases, but having two players like the top 10 or whatever going to Rutgers, is that like NIL money?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, probably. I mean, there might be a connection there with a coach or a family member. Who knows? I mean, it's not just the kids that are getting taken care of, it's also family members and...
But do you see more schools that are on like the next level coming up to challenge, make it more competitive with this?
Well, what's happened, there's always going to be a pecking order. Okay, so you take an Oakland, for example, they've got this really good kid, and he's not going to be able to keep him. He's going to go up. And the good Division II kids like mine are going to go to where Campy's at Oakland. So it all trickles down or trickles up, however you want to look at it. But at the end of the day, the Dukes and the Kansases and North Carolinas are going to get the best players. It's the way it's going to work.
Who controls the money? You say college presidents and coaches are out of it. Where do they get the money to pay that amount? Is it?
It's donors, alumni. So it's all organized. Typically they have a CPA firm that takes the money in, so it's all legal. And but we're kind of out of the mix until it comes time to when these kids ask for how much money do you have, type of thing.
But who tells you how much money you have, or who tells the?
Well, there's always communication with the collective, the people running the collective.
There's somebody that's in charge of the
Yes.
collective.
Correct.
Alumni.
Yep. So I would never give any money to a player. It all comes from the collective, who are alumnus or donors or whatever. Yes.
Does the player come to the coach directly, or do they have representation?
Usually a parent. There's a protocol, like the coach can't say, I have X amount of dollars for you. The player says, what do you have in your collective? And the coach comes back and says, this is what I have for you, type of thing. And it just becomes like almost like a bidding war, really.
Jeff,
Yes.
got a quick question. Correct me if I'm wrong. Can this Bronny James situation?
Yeah.
He wants to remain eligible and be in the portal in NIL, but he also wants to enter the draft. What's up with that?
I don't know. Well, he's Bronny James, right? He can do whatever he wants to do.
I mean, he's getting advice, eh?
Well, it's a unique situation, obviously. He did not have a great year. He averaged 5 points and 2 rebounds or whatever. Now, kids have done this in the past. You can go into you can declare for the draft and not sign with an agent. Once you sign with an agent, okay, you automatically lose your NCAA eligibility. So kids will go in and kind of see where they might fit into the draft. Now, a kid like Bronny James, if his dad isn't LeBron, but someone might draft him thinking, I'll get LeBron for a year or two, and if nothing else, we'll make a lot of money just because we have him there. But realistically, I think Bronny ends up at like Duquesne, where Drew just got named. Drew Joyce was just named the head coach, or possibly even Ohio State. I wouldn't want to coach him. We're just having this conversation. I mean, that's kind of a lose-lose as a coach. I think that really weighed heavily on the coach at USC because he probably wasn't good enough to play. Coach probably felt I better get him in the game. They had a horrible season. They were below 500. Just a tough situation. Yep.
We all agree it's pretty much of a money game into the Wild West. Is the NCAA going to be able to maintain its governing authority over the college basketball?
That's a good question. There's already talk, especially with football and basketball, probably more so football, just kind of doing their own thing, and it's kind of trending that way already, and just eliminating the NCAA, especially with those Power 5 schools or conferences. So, like I said, 5 or 10 years from now, what's it look like? I don't know, but I could see that happening where the NCAA is not even involved. But you're only gonna have about 5% of the colleges in that at that level. So I don't know. We'll see. Yes.
At what age do you and your scouts start looking at kids in high school, grade?
Yeah, so what age do we start recruiting kids? Usually, and we're a lot different than Division I's. Division I's will start tracking kids 8th or 9th grade. The high majors there'll be a 6th grader that they'll make contact with because they know, he's going to be a pretty good player, and you start forming relationships. For us, it's usually juniors and seniors. We don't get too attached to them that early because they could grow 5 inches and we'd be wasting our time. They're going to go to Ohio State or Akron or one of those schools. Division I. Yes.
Is all this money taxable?
Yes.
Who's responsible for it?
Yeah, I think the player, it's income. So yeah. Now, if it's done through the collective, it is, but who knows what else is floating around. Really, nothing's really changed, especially with basketball and football. It's just legal now. This stuff has been going on for years and years. Now it's just legal, and now some of these blue blood programs are like, holy cow! Some of these others, they're going to catch up to us because they can do it, legally. So,
Taking you away from the madness of the college coaching thing into a personal level, does the name Mason Thomas ring a bell to you?
I hope he's not 7 foot. I don't know that name.
How about your AAU 6th graders team?
My team?
Your youngest?
So I have a 6th grade boy and a 8th grade boy, and I coach the 8th grade boys team.
I'm the grandfather of Mason Thomas, who plays with your youngest on his AAU team.
Well, I don't coach that team.
I know you
Were they in
don't.
He was in Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Oh,
He was in
Mason from Green.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
He was in Hamilton, Ohio.
Yeah, they had a good tournament. They lost in the championship game.
Obviously, the youngest that I've watched play has had some pretty good teaching and shooting the ball.
He can make a 3. Yep.
Yeah.
They better be able to shoot. Pass, dribble, and shoot.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I know. He's a good kid. Good player, too. Yep. Yep.
Coach, everything we've talked about has been off the court. Do you envision any changes on court from the NCAA, anything that you think will change the game?
Like in what respect? I mean...
Well, like high school. I'm referring first of all to high school, envisioning making it mandatory for a shot clock.
Oh, okay.
Changing the shot clock to college level, doing a variety of different moves.
Well, the shot clock, I think that's coming at the high school level. I think we'd already have it. We're one of the few states that does not have a high school shot clock, and I think some of it's just expense, some of those things. But now, Coach would not like the shot clock. If Coach wasn't as good as a team, he could still beat you because he's going to run his stuff until they get a layup or whatever. And I like that. I mean, it gives you a chance, especially when you get in the tournament. But I think, they want it to be a little more like the college game. I don't think any of our rules, every year the NCAA makes coaches watch a video. It takes about an hour and a half with all the rule changes. You know, we're going to be looking for this and this and this. So we watch this video, we tell our players, and you know, they'll stick to it for about the first couple games, and by game 3 or 4, it's back the way it used to be. It's like we wasted our time on this, these rule changes.
I was envisioning, like, with high school and in girls' college, we play quarters. College, we play halves. Well, is there any, could you see going to quarters as a change? Just
Yeah, I mean, I think they, on the women's side, they went to quarters to try to speed the game up from a time perspective. Like, we typically, at the Division II level, we do doubleheaders. Women play first, followed by men. Their games, for whatever reason, last about 2 hours from start to finish. Our games last about an hour and 45 minutes, hour and 40. So I don't know how you change that, or if you even need to, but that was the intent of 4 quarters, less timeouts. I thought it'd speed the game up a little bit from a time perspective, just like they're doing with Major League Baseball and the pitch count and all that stuff. Yes, sir.
When Coach told us that the reason they play halves, 20-minute halves, is because of TV commercials every 4 minutes. And he says in 2000, I think it was 27, that may change that.
Yeah, that could, and that is true. You know, everything's based around TV at that level, and money, and timeouts last a lot longer than our timeouts, and we have the same thing. We're 16-8 or 16-12-8 for whatever it is. And I'm like, why did we do that? Because no one's watching our games anyway. We're not on TV. And sometimes in our games, like it seems like there's always a timeout and a stoppage of play, which kind of ruins flow a little bit. But that's probably not changing, just because TV controls that. So, yep.
On a lighter side, Coach, would you like to have Edie on your team, and how would you coach him differently?
Edie? Absolutely. I mean, he controlled the game the other night. I mean, they were just going to throw it to him, and he was going to go to work. And you could kind of predict that based on North Carolina State's size. Burns, DJ Burns. I mean, he had a heck of a game before that, but he wasn't being guarded by a 7'5" guy, which I knew, you know, he was going to have a hard time scoring it over him. I think he took one mid-range jumper, missed it, and that was pretty much it. And then they had to try to figure out a way to stop Edie. You know, you double down on Edie, kick it out, wide open 3. So yeah, I mean, at our level, I mean, obviously he would probably win a national championship. I don't think they can win tonight, but it'll be a good matchup. I just think Connecticut's guards are too good. So I mean, the bigs will kind of offset each other, but Connecticut has really good guard play. So, yeah.
It's my imagination, or they would call him the 3-second.
That doesn't exist. No, there's no rule. There was no 3 seconds, and they do a pretty good job of getting in and out of there. But for the most part, if you get one of those a year, it's a surprise. Traveling, hey, I'm still trying to figure out what a travel is and what isn't. The Euro step and some of these moves, to me, it's a travel. It's not anymore in the game. Yes.
So we get to the big money now. What are your scholarships, and how do you split them? How many do you have?
So at the Division I level, on the men's side, there's 13 scholarships. On the women's side, there's 14. Division II, there's 10. So what I've typically done in the past is usually about 9 guys are on a full ride, and then I divide that last one between 3 or 4 guys. So they're on partials. And it's a, you know, at our level, Division II, private school, there's a lot of schools struggling. And Walsh, you know, we're in pretty good shape, but you just saw Notre Dame closed up in Cleveland. A couple others in the last month or so across the country. And it's probably not going to get any better for a little bit. There's probably 2 or 3 in our conference, Lake Erie being one, Ohio Dominican. I mean, kids just start. There's not as many kids going to school, and a lot of them now, especially in this area, they'll go to a Stark State and get out of there for about a quarter what they're going to pay at a Walsh or a Malone or Ashland or whatever it may be. Yes.
So in the GMAC, we see a lot of different officiating crews come in. As you know, some guys will call a hand check at 30 feet. Some guys won't call a felony at the rack.
Right.
My question for you is how much of your game plan is affected by who's going to be the crew for the day? And do you talk to your team about that at all?
Well, they do let us know who's officiating about 3 days before. Sometimes I'll look at it and be like, we have no chance tonight. There's a couple guys that I could do without on our game.
I know who they are.
Yeah, you know who they are, right? But with that being said, it's a tough job. I mean, everything happens so quick. I mean, everybody's talking about the foul on in the women's game in the semi. Was it a moving screen? People say, that's a foul in the first quarter. It's not in the fourth quarter. You don't call that to decide the game. Yeah, but my argument would be a foul is a foul. If you call it in the first quarter, call it in the fourth quarter. Was she moving? Probably a little bit. I mean, it probably, if you really slow it down and look at it, it probably was a foul. You hate to see a game, especially in that magnitude, decided by that call. And it probably, it was. Maybe the game goes the other way if they don't make that call. But no, if officiating, it's a tough job. Nobody wants to do it anymore, and I don't blame them. I mean, you got coaches like me that are on them from start to finish, and you're competitive. You want calls to go your way, and talking about youth basketball, and I go to these games, and it's crazy. Parents are they're ruining the game. That's why they don't want to ref. It's not necessarily because of the coaches. It's what's going on in the bleachers, and not only do I feel bad for the officials, I really feel bad for the kids, because the pressure these kids are under right now from their parents to perform, it just kind of breaks my heart. They're going to lose the love of the game. And I can remember as a kid sitting in church, counting something on the ceiling, just can't wait to get out of there and run to the park and go play basketball.
Hey.
For the next Service was almost over. I was a little ADD anyway. I was ready. I need to be outgoing. And I see these things kind of changing. Not to get long-winded here, but my son was eighth grade son was a baseball player, and this is the first year now he's not playing baseball, and he played more games of baseball by the time he was a sixth grader than I did my whole career up through my senior year in high school, and he just had enough. He enjoyed it. He had fun. He had very good coaches. He learned a lot, but he didn't love it anymore. And it's kind of sad that he's a pretty good player, and you're in eighth grade and you're no longer playing. So, from an outsider that kind of knows how this thing works, again, it kind of breaks my heart to see these kids not having the love and the passion for the game, because it's too much. And I hope it doesn't, affect the college game down the line, but we'll see. Yes, last question.
As a coach, I wouldn't want to be a coach. I coached a lot of time in high school. Anymore with parents the way they are. But as I look at the change in the game, the rule, take wrestling. 3-minute first period, 2-minute, 2-minute. That's unheard of. They did the NCAAs this year. I think they did the last year.
I'm sorry, I missed that. What was?
For your wrestling.
Oh.
It used to be 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and 2 minutes. Now it's 3 minutes, 2 minutes. It's just boom.
Yeah.
And then I look at these young kids playing ball. I mean, they're not doing it. Now they're playing video games because the parents are playing video games.
Yeah.
But in the same measure, you have coaches in the high school who say, you're going to play baseball, then you're not playing football, you're off the squad. And these kids are, as 9th, 10th, 11th grade, are specializing in sports.
Yeah.
As I coach, I always like to have a track kid on my team, because I had some people who got around. But they did away with it.
Well,
You can't run track.
Yeah.
If you're going to play baseball, you don't run. If you're going to play basketball, you can't play football.
Yeah, that's.
We're making too many specialized
Yeah,
people.
I agree. It's unfortunate.
They're taking the fun out of the game.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and you know, it's at every high school. Now, you go to a smaller high school, they need you to play 3 sports. So that's a good thing. You talk to some of these professional athletes' parents. Most of these guys played 2 or 3 sports growing up. I just heard him say something about Sam Merrill for the Cavs. I'm a big Cavs guy. I love Sam Merrill. He's a great shooter. Football, baseball. He played 4 sports: basketball and maybe track. I think it's good for the kids. It changes the pace a little bit. Specialize. You know, it could be good early on, but you're going to burn them out. They're not going to want to do it. So, okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.